Attention! This video is sponsored by CJ Tech.
Hello, it's Minitron, and today I'm going to be talking about fixing meta perks issues. So these issues are variety, health, and for killer regression perks, stacking. So what do I mean by all of those? Variety, especially now at high MMR, if I can call it that way, is pretty low. You can pick 5 or 10 kill and survivor perks, and they're gonna be used in every match by multiple people, making variety very low. Also, if you don't have those perks, you'll probably suffer from some weaknesses that base game has, that behavior that developers are constantly trying to solve by using the perks, which should not be the case at all. So today I'm going to be showing you my propositions on how to nerf or rework these perks to change them in that way that will also affect the base game. And let's get straight into it. Okay, now for killer perks, let's start with corrupt intervention, discordance, and lethal pursuer, because my solution for them is pretty much the same. So, the corrupt intervention, what it does. At the start of the trial, the 3 generators located farthest from you are blocked by the entity for 120 seconds. This is a very great perk because it forces survivors to go closer to killer and allows killer to find them easier, and also enables some 3-generating potential. Discordance is another great killer perk, which shows any generator within pretty much the whole map if it's being repaired by 2 or more survivors, which greatly helps in early game and throughout the match. And Lethal Pursuer, a new perk, it shows the location of spawned survivors for 9 seconds. So all these 3 perks are helping killers to find survivors, and also this issue is bigger in the big maps. So what do I propose to base game change? So there is a base game change I propose to make all those perks not so much needed to help nerf big maps a bit. I propose that survivors always spawn together, which might be actually a great idea, because when survivors are grouped up in one place and doing, for example, one generator, if the killer stumbles upon there, he'll be bothering 4 people at a time, and no gens will be done. And if survivors start hiding there, waiting for someone to loop all the way there, the killer's gonna down them, the killer's gonna hook them in the generator, and all 3 survivors will still be there, and no gens will be done. So what survivors will actually need to do? They will need to split up. Right now, if you're on Lethal Pursuer, you will understand how actually bad the spawns are, because right now in the big maps you can have all survivors spawn on different generators, and they'll start working on them immediately, and they won't need to traverse these big maps. So by spawning all survivors together, I will be still keeping these perks very useful, because Corruptance still can keep you 3-gen. Discordance can still pinpoint you to all those survivors. Lethal Pursuer also can do that, but also shows you the auras. Discordance also helps you throughout the match, but survivors will actually need to waste time at the start if they want to be more efficient on generators. And one of these perks will be pretty much all the killer needs, really, So you won't start corrupt intervention, discordance, corrupt intervention, lethal pursuer, for example, because you will just you won't need to do it because only one of these perks allows you to find all survivors at a time, or they split up and waste some of their times, which nerfs the big maps because they also need to traverse big distances. So Generous will be nerfed from this, which is very good. Obviously, this change means that offerings for spawning survivors away from the killer together with other survivors should be removed from the game. Now we go to the Ruin and Pop combo. These perks are so great, but stacking them together is the main problem. So I propose to make them not stackable, which is probably gonna be for the best. So right now, Ruin regresses automatically generator at 200% speed of normal regression speed, but I suggest that after Ruin is cleansed, it's gonna be regressing generators at 50% of normal regression speed, so even lower than when you kick it naturally. So it will. So right now, when the Ruin is out, the main problem that killer gets a lot of free pressure by just going to generators, chasing off survivors, and stalling the game for a very long time. And if killer combines it with pop, survivors get really no much reward from cleansing the Ruin, because now they have to deal with pop, and pop is not active at the start of the game. Ruin is active at the start of the game, so this combo actually makes more sense. But if generators will actually, after cleansing Ruin, will still regress, you won't be able to pop them, so you'll need to rely only on Ruin and not on this dirty combo, which I think will be better for everyone, because you'll need to choose one of these perks. So the good thing about the nerfed Ruin will be that it still regresses generators, so you still get free pressure, but it's not at such a ridiculous amount that it regresses every time survivor goes for the rescue and goes back. It regresses like 50% or something, or 30%, and then killer comes and regresses 50%, and it won't be regressing gens at such high values, but it'll still have will be disabling all those nasty combos with pop. So about the pop itself, it's pretty well designed perk, but the base game has very little to compete with it. So pop greatly outstands from any other killer perk that I'm not specifying in this best killer perks list. So what I recommend to do, I propose that default kick and generator will actually steal 5% progress from it immediately, and the pop will be nerfed accordingly to 20 extra percent to that 5%. So it will be the same regression with pop, and pop will still be a great perk, but new killers will not struggle so much and won't waste their time kicking generators, but actually will be doing stuff, because kicking generator right now is taking killer like 2 seconds, and survivor can just touch it in 0.0 seconds, literally, and undo all those regressing, because it's actually non-regressing at this time. So it will greatly boost the variety of builds which killer can use, but just adding some default regression chance, which killers obviously very need. And the last killer perk we have on this list is a Tinkerer. It's a very unfair and dirty killer perk, which gives you stealth for 16 seconds and warns you about the generator being done, so you can sneak on that person if it's only one person and get a hit. And if you have Ruin, if you have Pop, you're gonna be regressing this gen and triggering Tinker again, and it will drag the game for a ridiculous amount of time, which benefits the killer in every way, but it's not very fun for survivors. So what do I propose? I propose a straight nerf that will make Tinker only once per generator, but the undetectable status effect will be gained for longer. It will actually be gained for 24 seconds. It's probably near the time the survivor needs to finish the generator if he's by himself at from 70% to 100. So you actually will be able to look at the perk and see how much time you have before the generator gets done, which will be actually pretty nice. So by nerfing this perk, it will still be one of the greatest killer perks. Don't tell me wrong, it will still be great, but it's no longer be so oppressive and overpowered. Well, survivor perks have also some bad issues, and if best killer perks are information and general aggression perks, for survivors best perks are some second chances and also perks that cover up for some badly designed pure game. So it's we're gonna come to BT, DS, and Breakable, which are the best survivor perks. So 1, 2, and 3. You can turn them around, but they're definitely top 3 survivor perks. So by adding them, behavior tries to solve a lot of problems by just adding perks, not tinkering with the base game, which I think is a very bad idea. So well, let's see the adrenaline first. I don't think it needs to be nerfed too much. Right now, when the exegate is powered, it heals you and gives you a 5-second speed boost, which is really good. But it's also a very risky perk, because if you die before endgame, you're probably not gonna see it. But right now, with skill-based matchmaking, the matches seem to be a bit more fair and survivors get to an endgame more. So I think it will be only for the better if adrenaline will work as any other exhaustion perk and will not give you a speed burst if you are exhausted. So actually help the perk diversity, because you wouldn't use adrenaline with sprint burst as effective as and ridiculous as now. You cannot dead hard and then adrenaline away with the gain health state. You still gain health state after generator gets done, but if you were exhausted, then you will not get it. And I think it's gonna be pretty fair. Well, now let's get to the borrow time and breakable and decisive strike. Borrowed time is giving a survivor protection after getting unhooked, which obviously helps both against camping and tunneling. The unhooked survivor is granting some safety, which base game it has not at all. So you need to run this perk if you want your teammate not to die immediately after unhooking, because the killer has no reason to hit the unhooking person, because if he just has an injured person coming from a hook and he can hit right them. So this perk is actually only thing that stops killers from hitting you immediately after each hook, because they fear of this perk. So just I propose to add half of the time with endurance to the base game. So the survivor will be protected for 6 seconds, and the actual perk borrow time will increase the time to 12 seconds. So it will still be very good perk, and it will help you to get the rescue out of basement, out of hard places, but the base game will still have some room for the unhooked survivor to not immediately get tunneled by the Campbell killer. So that will be really good. Next perk is Unbreakable, and developers again trying to solve the slugging problem with it. The slugging and camping and tunneling all are the best top killer strats. If you want to win, you'll eventually come to them. So these perks are trying to fight against that, and they but I think the base game needs to have some of that. So instead of Unbreakable giving you a permanent increase on recovery speed, I propose the default game has that recover speed. So right now Survivor recovers in about 30 seconds. I propose we cut that shorter to 16 seconds or 20 seconds, like right now with Unbreakable. So Unbreakable will still pick up survivors from the ground. It will still be absolutely useful and very good, but the slugging will not be so efficient, because if you just slug a person for 16 or 20 seconds, they're already gonna be picked up by another survivor, and by the time you down that survivor, another one gonna be picked up. So it will really make slugging less effective, and the game will be healthier with that, because no one really likes slugging. Tell you as a killer main. Now decisive strike. Only thing that prevents killer from camping and tunneling you and after unhook is borrow time and decisive strike. So obviously one of pretenders on the best survivor perks in the game. What it does right now, for 60 seconds, if survivor is not touching generators, repairing totems, or doing some other stuff listed here, unhooking another survivors, when the killer picks him up at that time or grabs him, survivor will get a tremendously survivor will get a skill check, and if they hit it, they will be out and the killer will be stunned for 5 seconds. So this is a really great perk, but the base game needs that. The base game needs that. The base game needs some tools against camping and tunneling, so you don't have to run decisive and borrow time every single game. So we'll have more diversity. So what I propose is stupid, but it will work. You just add 30 seconds decisive strike, the ability of stun the killer for 5 seconds after 30 seconds of unhooking a survivor. Any survivor will have that ability for 30 seconds by default. So the killer, if he wants to tunnel, you will still need to wait 30 seconds, and you will not be able to stun him twice with decisive and this perk. No, decisive will just increase the time to 60 seconds, and it's probably still been a great perk and good anti-tunnel perk. I love the changes they made to decisive recently, but the base game needs that. Not only this perk, the base game needs some protection for unhooked survivors. And I recommend this, for example, 6 seconds of BT and 30 seconds of default decisive strike to any survivor be added, because that will just solve a lot of problems and open up the survivor builds for a lot of more variety than we see right now. Well, next we move to one of the beloved survivor perks called Iron Will. It removes your grants of pain by 100%, and even Strider right now is not affecting Iron Will. It's just pretty good if you want to stay stealthy, if you want to flashlight save someone, if you want to sneak around and get lost around the loops. It will be very great, but it is used too much times, and survivors just need some more variety in their builds. So let's just make the default grants of pain reduced by 15%, and this Iron Will reduce it to 100%. So this might be a bit controversial, because the killers will have a harder time to hearing those survivors, but most survivors will just probably stop running Iron Will, because they're already pretty quiet. If you pick a quiet character right now like Ace, you can already like have built an Iron Will, and with this change most survivors will not need it and will be still not so loud. And also that will be countering the spirits, so everyone is happy, I think, except for the spirit mains. Okay, let's get to another survivor exhaustion perks. Sprint Burst and Dead Heart we're going to be looking at. I suggest nerfing them both a bit, so they will be on the same level as Balanced Landing, as Life, and etc. So Sprint Burst right now allows you to sprint for 3 seconds. I suggest to make that 2 or 2.5. Not really sure about the number, but it should be lower, because right now it's the best exertion perk for Survivor in the game, Adrenaline Knockouts. But it's probably stronger than Adrenaline, because it lets you build up a distance on the killer from nothing. You can just do jumps, and when he finally comes and tries to catch you, you just sprint burst away, and if he tries to catch you off guard, nothing works, because he still needs to catch up to you and waste his time. So this perk is really annoying and really good, and it should be probably nerfed to the level of other exhaustion perks, so that survivors will use them more. Dead Heart is incredibly fun survivor perk, and I also love to use it, but it also needs some nerf. I had some trouble with coming up with fun ideas that will replace Dead Heart for survivors. Right now it gives you basically the second chance in the chase if you use it right, or some distance needed to come to the loop. And it's pretty hard to create some alternative for that ability that will be in the same level of fun for survivors, because this can last a chase. So the Sprint Burst right now is probably stronger, but Dead Hearts is much incredible and much more fun. So what I actually propose the changes to Dead Heart, I actually propose to add some penalty for using Dead Heart when the killer is hitting through it. Because if you think from a real life logic, it doesn't make any sense that survivor gets invulnerability for half a second and comes through the killer. So if the weapon comes through survivor, if the killer hits him through the Dead Heart and the game detects it, I think survivor needs to get a deep wound status effect, so that he'll need to mend. This will not influence the fun of the chases themselves, but maybe even increase it, because in deep wound status, survivors will have a harder time to see what is going on, right? And if the and it will also give the killer more room to finish the chase quicker, because the survivors will be partially blind. And also, if the killer is just irritated and he knows the survivor has Dead Heart, but he doesn't want to let him spin around and then make it somewhere to another loop, he can just hit the survivor, eat through Dead Heart, and leave him. But knowing that he'll have to at least mend for 10 or x time seconds. Maybe that's not gonna be a most original change, but it's definitely gonna be an improvement. It will not affect the fun of this perk. It will just add more penalty for using it incorrectly. So if you use it while the killer is not hitting you, you will just it will just be a good old Dead Heart. Also, we might consider making the recovery of Sprint Burst and Dead Heart more than other exhaustion perks, which I don't really know why behavior is not tinkering with it, but I think it also can be a way to nerf these perks. And we come to the probably one of the most passive but absolutely gorgeous survivor perks, which I totally love. It's called Kindred, and it basically allows you to see your teammates and the teammates to see you when someone is hooked. Also, you can see the killer if he's 60 meters of the unhooked survivor, and if you're hooked, your teammates see the killer also. It's very good if you don't know who the killer is at the start of the game, and you detect who it is. You detect always, you see through the hooked little animation where the killer is going, and if he's placing some traps around it, you can see it, everything. So it's very good on that point. But the most valuable part of this perk is the ability for your team to coordinate like if you were survive with friends. So no one will no, with Kindred you won't have time where your teammates sit on 3 different generators and think that someone will come for the rescue and you'll actually hit stage 2 or die on hook. And if you're gonna see that your teammates are doing nothing and crouching by the map, you'll need to know that although this guy hooked is pretty far away, you still need to get them, because those survivors are not maybe they're busy looping the killer or doing generators, and you need to come for the rescue. So this perk gives you a lot of information, and I think the base game needs a grasp of it too. So what do I propose? It's just a pretty simple little change. When the survivor is hooked, any survivor, all other survivors by default will see others' auras after the hooking for 5 seconds, which will probably a bit help in the coordination. So you can like think, oh, this guy I think is being chased, this guy is doing gen but he's far away, so I need to go for the rescue. And even without this perk, you'll still be more coordinated, and solo queue will not be such a trouble for you. Right now it's probably the best solo queue perk in the game, and it'll probably stay that way, because you maybe think that with Kindred you maybe think that someone is coming because he's closer, but then you see with this perk that he is actually getting looped by the killer or chased off hook, and you understand that you need to come, or that guy just ignores everything and does gens. You understand that you need to come to save that guy or he'll just die. So the Kindred will still be a great and useful perks, but at least solo queue won't be such a trouble, and you will have a general idea of where these survivors can be, and a general plan of what you need to do. So that's about it. I think those changes will really help the game in both variety, health departments, and if the developers will actually consider to implementing this, we'll see more survivor perks, killer perks, different perks, which will lighten up the meta and the mood of all players, because no one is really wanting to call tryhard when he just uses a perk that has no replacements in the base game. Well, the perk is so great, then everyone needs to use it, just because if you don't, you can just die a stupid death, and there's really nothing you can do if you don't have those perks. So I think those perks should be nerfed, like I listed. But if you have some propositions on any of them, be free to write them in the comments. Also, if you like the video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. I'm planning to upload DBD guides and such talks about the balance, about some problems in the game, and probably I'm gonna be uploading some gameplay later too. So I'll see you in the next one.